All in the 916 Sactown Sports.
It's summertime. You know what that means. It means State Fair's here. It means it's going to be really hot. And it means the 49ers are probably embroiled in some kind of contract dispute. You go back to George Kittle in 2020, Fred Warner in 21, Debo in 22, Nick Bosa last summer. And right now, the 49ers appear to be dug in contract talks with Brandon Aiyuk, who today requested a trade. At least it was reported today he's requested a trade. It's Whitey and Draper here. Drape's in Las Vegas. So let's find out if that means anything. Nice stuff to join us. Outstanding 49er insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, Jennifer Lee Chan. How's your summer going, Jennifer Lee?
It's going well. I've got a little time off, which is nice, but now right back at it.
Yeah. What on the surface, what does this entitle Brandon Aiyuk to do? What did he request a trade? If you're the 49ers, what does that mean for you?
It opens the door. It's kind of his, I guess, way of trying to get leverage in the situation, because previously it was pretty much the 49ers who had the leverage, and they've got him under contract for the 2024 season. So now it shows that he's willing to go to another franchise in order to be paid, comparable to the other wide receivers in the league that we saw during the offseason. Now, I don't know if it necessarily means that this will happen, because the price tag for Brandon Aiyuk and the trade with the 49ers, it's going to be pretty high. And, the 49ers also have to agree to it. So there's a lot of different, I guess, obstacles in the way of Brandon Aiyuk actually being traded to another team.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jennifer, it's Kyle Draper here. Good to have you on. Thanks for jumping on with us. Does this negotiation seem different from some of the previous ones that my co-host just mentioned? Is this different from the Debo, from the Bosa negotiations? This seems a little more personal for Brandon Aiyuk.
I think Debo Samuel definitely took it personally. I think there is a different mentality for wide receivers in negotiating their contract. It's just part of the position and part of what happens there. But time-wise, it's definitely different than the other contracts that you discussed. Now, Debo Samuel asked for a trade back in April. And, normally trades happen during that time, before the draft, before free agency, or, during free agency. So it makes it a little easier for teams to trade because they haven't drafted yet. So at this point now, if a team wants to offer a compensation package to the 49ers, it's not going to take just a first round pick. It's probably going to take something else, maybe a comparable player, maybe a first and a second, for the 49ers to agree to it, because whatever they get is not going to help them in the 2024 season if they agree to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, all the salaries have been set for 2024, most of them. So will a team have $28 to $30 million a year to give to Brandon Aiyuk? It just makes it more difficult for a team to do it at this point in the season. Looking at the other ones that happened in the past, they happened earlier in March and April. Robbie Gould requested a trade in April as well. So it's just difficult for a team to do that type of maneuvering at this point in the season, with training camp just around the corner and with most of their salary already factored in for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jennifer Lee Chan, nice enough to join us from NBC Sports Bay Area. A lot of people look at this and say, wow, the 49ers, maybe they don't value Brandon Aiyuk, and I know he's feeling disrespected. Based on your observations, what you've heard from Coach Shanahan, how much would you say, Jennifer, that 49ers value Brandon Aiyuk as a football player?
I think they absolutely value him, and they value him quite a bit. He's turned into their top wide receiver, target-wise, yard-wise. He, is very tough down the stretch. He opens up. He's not only a good receiver, but he's a good run blocker. You've seen him in front of the running backs for the entire season, making pathways so that they can get into the end zone or get longer gains. So, he's extremely invaluable. But, when you're looking ahead and how they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy, the guy who touches the football every single play, it's going to be difficult to compensate all of these players as much as they're asking for. So, I'm all for players asking for as much as they can, as fast as they can, because their careers are so short. But, in looking at what the 49ers are going to be able to do, it's going to be difficult to set Brandon Aiyuk up for a huge contract when Brock Purdy is up for a huge contract in 2025. And then, so many other players, Trevor Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, like all those players are not under contract in 2025. So they're going to have to do a lot of paying out of huge contracts coming up. And I don't know if they can afford to pay Brandon Aiyuk $28 to $30 million a year. So I think it's worth it. But whether they're fiscally able to do it is another story.
Hey, Jennifer, how do you think the organization views the position in relation to some of the other positions, whether it's the quarterback, running back, line, secondary, linebackers, whatever it may be? We know Kyle Shanahan's an offensive guru. Do you think, and I got to phrase this the correct way, not that he could just plug in anybody and have success, but do you think there's sort of a feeling that, there are a lot of good wide receivers out there and we don't want to invest top dollar in that position?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like you see the 49ers have to have high quality players at certain positions. Now, do they need two in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk? Maybe, maybe not. But you also see it like on the offensive line. They pay Trent Williams a ton of money, but the rest of the offensive line, Kyle Shanahan kind of works it out where they have, mid-range to low-range paid players on the line, and they're still very effective. So part of it is, yes, how much can Kyle Shanahan compensate in the way he uses his players versus, the talent needed at certain positions like Trent Williams, like George Kittle, like Christian McCaffrey. So it's hard to say, but I mean, I know they want to keep Brandon Aiyuk in the building, but it's just, where's the tipping point at, how much they can afford to pay him.
That's Jennifer Lee Chan, of course, NBC Sports Bay Area 49er insider. Jennifer, what do we know, or what do we at least think we know as far as what kind of trade talks have occurred to this point? Have the 49ers been talking, as far as we know, with any team about an Aiyuk trade on any level?
There hasn't been anything confirmed, but John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said during the draft that, they always answer the phone. So, they're always going to see what offers are out there. So I'm sure that other teams have been inquiring about Brandon Aiyuk as they have in the past, because he is a talented wide receiver. There's no reason why they wouldn't, but what the 49ers are asking for in compensation, that's the part that we don't know. So, maybe teams are calling, but once they hear, okay, it's 2 first-round picks, and I'm just, prognosticating at this point.
Right.
They're like, no, we can't afford to do that. So, it's got to be a team that is pretty much set as far as, salary cap. They can, they've got a little bit of extra cushion. Also, a team that is not looking towards the future as much. Like, they've got their roster set. Because if you're going to give a first round, a second round pick to a team, that means you've either got multiple first round picks for next year, or your roster is so set that you're willing to go and say, okay, we can wait until the second round to draft a future team player. So.
Hey, Jennifer, how do you see this playing out, I guess, over the next week or so when veterans are supposed to report? This could escalate pretty quickly. How key do you think this next week is, and what happens next week when veterans are supposed to report it and Aiyuk may or may not be there?
Unless an extension is worked out, I doubt Brandon Aiyuk will be there. I thought he would show up for minicamp, and he didn't. So that's kind of sets the precedent, right? If he didn't show up for minicamp, I highly doubt that he shows up for training camp without an extension in place. Now, if there is no trade and he hasn't reached an extension yet, he'll have to show up for practice for week 1, because this is his biggest payday yet. He's under contract with the 49ers for the 2024 season. His price tag is $14.124 million, I believe. It's more than what he's made in his past 4 seasons. So I just don't think he can afford to not show up for week 1. He may sit out all of training camp. But the team can also play hardball back. They can say, we're not waiving the fines. If you don't show up, you're going to be fined. Now, they waived them for Nick Bosa because I think they were really close on getting a contract done. So they said, hey, we'll waive the fees or the fines for you not showing up for training camp. They did not. They are unable to do that for minicamp. So Brandon Aiyuk already accrued over $100,000 in fines for not showing up to minicamp. So I think he's got to show up for week 1, but he could not show up for training camp. And I think that's where it's headed.
You think they'll franchise him? franchise tag him?
For next season, they could,
Mm-hmm.
and then, if they don't reach an extension, they'll definitely franchise tag him for 2025, and then they can work out from there, either an extension or a trade. So if they don't get an extension done now, they definitely will franchise him, and then, they've got him, they can hold him, and then, work out a trade at that point.
Gotcha. Jennifer, we know you're very busy. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jennifer, thanks.
Yeah, she doesn't think he's going to be there, Drapes.
It's about to get spicy next week, Whitey. I'm telling you, this is just the start.
It's a spicy. No, Liz, it's a big
falling apart.
spicy nothing burger. That's all it is. It's all going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Our thanks to Jennifer Lee Chan. Yeah, we're going to get back to basketball when we come back. We got Drapes at Summer League in Vegas. And wow, we got to talk about Jaylen Brown's brutal Bronny take that's gone viral. That's coming up here on Sactown Sports.
Subscribe to Sactown Sports on YouTube.